The pen hovers over the signature line, Rebecca Turner's hand trembling slightly. She's 43, elegant in a tailored cream suit, her dark hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail that accentuates her high cheekbones and the tight set of her jaw. Ms. Turner, we just need your signature to finalize the transaction, says the real estate attorney, a woman with kind eyes who has managed not to look pitying throughout this entire process. Rebecca stares at the closing documents spread across the mahogany table. $15 million. The number seems surreal, almost as surreal as what led her here. Her phone buzzes. Another text from Martin. Where are you? We need to talk about this. You can't just disappear. She silences her phone and signs her name with deliberate strokes. The Malibu beach house, their dream home, their glass palace on the cliffs, no longer belongs to either of them. Congratulations, the attorney says, gathering the papers. The wire transfer should complete by end of business today. Rebecca nods, feeling the weight of the cashier's check in her purse. Thank you for your discretion in this matter. Outside, the California sun is blinding. Rebecca slips on her sunglasses and walks to her car, passing a for sale sign with a red sold banner slashed across it. She doesn't look back at the modernist glass and steel structure perched on the cliffside, the house Martin had called their forever home just 6 months ago. Her phone rings again. This time she answers, Where the hell are you? Martin's voice is tight with anger. The realtor just called me. She said someone's buying our house. What the fuck is going on, Rebecca? Not our house anymore, she says, her voice eerily calm. I just closed the sale. There's a long pause. You did what? I sold it. For $15 million. Cash offer? You can't, that's impossible, Martin sputters. That's our house. Actually, she says, starting her car, it was my inheritance that paid for it. My name is the only one on the deed. A detail you might have checked before you decided to start your new life. Rebecca, I'll see you at home, Martin. We have a lot to discuss. She ends the call, tosses the phone onto the passenger seat, and pulls away from what used to be the Turner estate. A strange lightness spreading through her chest for the first time in months. 6 months earlier. Rebecca woke to the sound of waves crashing against the Malibu cliffs beneath their bedroom. Morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows that Martin had insisted on. Why have an ocean view if you're going to block it with walls? Bathing the minimalist bedroom in golden warmth, she reached across to Martin's side of the bed. Cold sheets. Again. Checking her phone, 7:18 a.m., no messages. This had become their routine over the past year. Martin leaving before dawn for early meetings at his architectural firm, returning late smelling of expensive cologne that wasn't the one she'd given him for his birthday. Rebecca pretending not to notice the distance growing between them, focusing instead on her own successful law practice and the charity foundation she'd established with part of her family's fortune. Rebecca had met Martin Turner 12 years ago when her father hired his then-small architectural firm to design a new wing for the family's art museum. Martin was 32 then, hungry and talented with a quiet intensity that had drawn her in immediately. She was 31, already established in her career as a corporate attorney, comfortable in the wealth she'd been born into, but determined to make her own way. They'd fallen in love over blueprints and zoning permits, married within a year, and built a life that looked perfect from the outside. No children, a mutual decision they'd revisited and reaffirmed several times. Just 2 successful professionals with a stunning home, enviable careers, and the kind of comfortable partnership that their friends seemed to admire. Until the comfortable became routine, and the routine became distant, and the distance became something else. Rebecca slipped out of bed and padded to the bathroom. Catching her reflection in the mirror, she noted the fine lines around her eyes, the slight hollowness in her cheeks. She looked tired. She was tired of pretending, of wondering, of waiting for Martin to either recommit to their marriage or have the courage to tell her he wanted out. Downstairs in their gleaming kitchen, she made coffee and carried it out to the terrace overlooking the Pacific. The house had been her gift to Martin after her father died 3 years ago. He'd left her a substantial inheritance, and she'd used part of it to purchase this property, a contemporary masterpiece designed by one of Martin's architectural heroes. It had been her way of showing him that she believed in him, in them, in their future together. Her phone rang, breaking her reverie. "Hello?" "Rebecca, it's Diane." Her assistant at the law firm sounded tense. "I'm sorry to bother you so early, but there's been a development with the Westlake merger." "They're trying to back out," Rebecca sighed. "I'll be there in an hour," she texted Martin. Another fire to put out at work. "Dinner tonight?" "We need to talk." His reply came quickly. "Can't tonight." Presenting designs to the Singapore clients. "Rain check?" Rebecca stared at her phone, a familiar ache spreading through her chest. Something had to change. She just didn't know what or how. Martin Turner stood at the drafting table in his downtown office, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up as he reviewed the final designs for the Singapore hotel project. At 44, he still had the lean build of the college swimmer he once was, though silver now threaded through his dark hair at the temples. "These look amazing," said Sophia Chen, sliding up beside him. At 35, she was the newest associate at Turner Architectural Group, brilliant and ambitious with an innovative approach to sustainable design that had brought fresh energy to the firm. "We still need to adjust the rooftop garden," Martin said, hyper-aware of her proximity, the subtle scent of her perfume. "I have some ideas about that," Sophia replied, leaning over the plans, her shoulder brushing against his. Their affair had begun 6 months ago during a business trip to Tokyo. A late-night working session, too much sake, mutual attraction that had been simmering for months. Martin hadn't planned it, hadn't been looking for it. Yet he hadn't ended it either. He told himself it wasn't about Rebecca. His wife was brilliant, beautiful, supportive. It was about feeling alive again, about the intoxicating rush of new desire, about escaping the growing sense that his life had become a beautifully designed cage. His phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca about dinner, about talking. He sent a quick excuse, guilt and relief mingling uneasily. "Everything okay?" Sophia asked, dark eyes studying his face. "Fine," he said, putting his phone away. "Just Rebecca asking about dinner." Sophia nodded, her expression neutral. They had an unspoken agreement not to discuss his marriage, to pretend their relationship existed in a separate reality that didn't hurt anyone else. "We should go over the sustainability features again before the presentation," she said, professional mode re-engaging. "The Singapore clients are particularly interested in the solar integration." "Right," Martin agreed, grateful for the shift in focus. "Let's make sure we nail this." Later, as they worked side by side into the evening, Martin pushed away thoughts of Rebecca alone in their glass house by the sea. He'd figure it out soon, what he wanted, what was fair to everyone. Just not today. Rebecca was in court when Elaine Harper called. "I need to see you," her oldest friend said when Rebecca returned the call during a recess. "It's important." They met at a quiet cafe near Rebecca's office, tucked away from the usual lunch spots where they might run into colleagues or acquaintances. Elaine looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her napkin. At 44, she and Rebecca had been friends since law school, seen each other through marriages, Elaine's divorce, career triumphs and setbacks. "Just tell me," Rebecca said after they'd ordered, recognizing the look on her friend's face. Elaine took a deep breath. "I saw Martin yesterday. In Beverly Hills." Rebecca waited, her stomach tightening. "He was with a woman. Young, Asian, very pretty." Elaine hesitated. "They were coming out of Tiffany's. She was wearing a ring, Beck, a big one. And they looked like a couple. A happy one." The world seemed to tilt slightly. Rebecca gripped her water glass. "Maybe it was a client." Elaine reached across the table, covering Rebecca's hand with her own. They were kissing Rebecca. Not a client kind of kiss. Rebecca nodded slowly, a strange calm descending over her. Some part of her had known for months, maybe longer. The evidence had been there in 100 small changes. The emotional distance, the late nights, the diminishing intimacy, the way Martin seemed to carefully manage his phone and laptop around her. Did you get her name? Rebecca asked, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice. Elaine blinked. No, I didn't approach them. I thought you should know. Thank you, Rebecca said. She took a sip of water. I need you to do something for me. Something confidential. Anything, Elaine replied without hesitation. I need a good private investigator. Someone discreet, Elaine nodded. I have a guy. Used him during my divorce. He's expensive, but thorough. Money's not an issue, Rebecca said, the lawyer in her taking over, organizing, planning. I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with before I decide what to do. 2 weeks later, Rebecca sat in her home office reviewing the private investigator's report. Clinical black and white photos showed Martin and Sophia Chen, the PI had identified her easily, entering hotels, dining in secluded restaurants, walking hand in hand on a beach in Santa Barbara. The most damning evidence wasn't the affair itself. Rebecca had already absorbed that reality, but what the investigator had uncovered about Martin's recent financial activities, new accounts opened, money moved. A small house purchased in Venice Beach, modern and secluded. Property records showed something that made Rebecca's blood run cold. Martin Turner and Sophia Chen, joint tenants with rights of survivorship. Dated 3 months ago, and then, buried in the financial documents, a marriage license. Martin Turner and Sophia Chen, filed in Las Vegas 6 weeks ago. Bigamy. Her husband had committed bigamy. Rebecca sat back in her chair, the enormity of the betrayal washing over her. Not just an affair. Not just lying. Martin had actually married another woman while still legally married to her. She thought of their 12 years together, the life they'd built, the plans they'd made. She thought of the house they lived in, her inheritance, her gift to him, and how he'd accepted it while secretly building another life. As the shock began to fade, something else took its place. Not just anger, though there was plenty of that. Something colder, more focused. Martin hadn't just betrayed their marriage. He'd made a fool of her. And Rebecca Turner had never been anyone's fool. She picked up her phone and called her financial advisor. Jackson, it's Rebecca Turner. I need to make some changes to my portfolio. And I need to know how quickly I can sell the Malibu property. Rebecca spent the next 3 weeks in a controlled frenzy of activity, all while maintaining a perfect facade of normalcy with Martin. She continued their routine of passing like ships in the night, even as she systematically prepared for what was to come. She consulted with 3 different attorneys, trusted colleagues who specialized in divorce law, criminal law, and real estate transactions. She moved money, documented assets, and gathered evidence, and she waited for the right moment. It came on a rare evening when Martin was actually home for dinner. Rebecca had prepared his favorite meal, opened an expensive bottle of wine, and set the dining table on the terrace overlooking the ocean at sunset. "This is nice," Martin said, seeming genuinely pleased as he took his seat. "What's the occasion?" "Do we need an occasion?" Rebecca asked, pouring the wine. "I feel like we've barely seen each other lately." Martin had the grace to look slightly guilty. "I know. This Singapore project has been all-consuming." Rebecca murmured. "How is Sophia doing with it? I know you mentioned she's been instrumental in the design." She watched him carefully, noting the momentary freeze in his movements before he recovered. "She's doing well, bringing a fresh perspective." He took a sip of wine. "How did you know she was working on the Singapore project?" Rebecca smiled. "You mentioned it a while back. I pay attention to what you say, Martin." They ate in silence for a few minutes, the tension barely concealed beneath their polite conversation. "I was thinking," Rebecca said eventually, "we should take a trip soon. Maybe to Venice Beach? I hear it's lovely this time of year." Martin's fork clattered against his plate. "Venice Beach? Or Las Vegas?" Rebecca met his eyes directly. "We haven't been there in years." The color drained from Martin's face. He set down his utensils carefully. "What exactly are you saying, Rebecca?" She reached into the folder she'd placed beside her plate and slid a photograph across the table. "Martin and Sophia, outside the Venice Beach house." "I know about Sophia," Rebecca said calmly. I know about the affair, the house in Venice Beach, and the marriage license from Las Vegas. Martin stared at the photo, then at Rebecca. I can explain. Bigamy is a felony in California, she continued, her voice level. Up to 3 years in state prison. Did you know that? His jaw tightened. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You married another woman while still married to me. You bought a house with her. You've been leading a double life. Rebecca took a sip of wine. What I don't understand is why you didn't just ask for a divorce. Martin ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking older than his 44 years. I didn't know how to tell you. You've done so much for me, for my career. This house. He gestured at the stunning architecture around them. I was going to tell you. I just needed to figure out the right way. By committing a felony in the meantime? Rebecca shook her head. That was your solution? Martin leaned forward. I'll end it with Sophia. We can work through this. See a counselor? I don't think you understand, Rebecca interrupted. I'm not offering reconciliation. I'm offering a choice. She slid another document across the table, divorce papers, already prepared. Option 1, an uncontested divorce. I keep the Malibu house and my family assets. You keep your firm and whatever you've earned yourself. No alimony either way. Clean break. Martin stared at the papers. And option 2, I press charges for bigamy. I sue you for fraud. I make sure every client, every colleague, every friend knows exactly what kind of man you are. Her voice remained steady. Your reputation would never recover. Neither would your firm. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the sound of waves crashing below. You've clearly given this a lot of thought, Martin finally said, his voice tight. I've had time. He picked up the divorce papers, flipping through them without really reading. How long have you known? Long enough to make an informed decision about what I want. Rebecca stood, gathering her plate. I'm not vindictive, Martin. I just want this to be over with minimal damage. But that depends entirely on how you choose to proceed. Martin remained seated as Rebecca cleared her dishes. When she returned to the terrace, he was staring out at the darkening ocean. I'll sign the papers, he said quietly. But I want to talk about the house. This house means everything to my career. The exposure, the prestige. The house isn't negotiable, Rebecca cut him off. It's in my name only, purchased with my inheritance. You have no legal claim to it. He turned to face her, anger finally breaking through his careful composure. You know what this place means to me. It's the cornerstone of my reputation. You should have thought of that before you married Sophia. Martin stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the terrace floor. You're being unreasonable. This house is as much mine as yours. I've lived here, maintained it, showed it to clients. My name is associated with it in every architectural publication. Nevertheless, it's mine, Rebecca said firmly, and I've decided to keep it. Their eyes locked in silent battle. Finally, Martin snatched up the divorce papers. Fine. I'll have my lawyer review these and get back to you. He headed toward the door, then paused. I never meant to hurt you, Rebecca. She didn't respond, just watched as he disappeared into the house. Moments later, she heard his car start and drive away. Rebecca remained on the terrace, gazing out at the vast Pacific. For the first time since discovering Martin's betrayal, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of her grief, not just for the marriage she'd lost, but for the future she'd believed in. She gave herself exactly 10 minutes to mourn. Then she dried her eyes, went inside, and called her real estate agent. Lisa, it's Rebecca Turner. I've decided to list the house after all. Yes, immediately. And I want it to be quiet. No public listing, no open houses. Just reach out to your high net worth clients. Someone will want this place. She hung up and looked around at the stunning glass and steel structure that had once represented her and Martin's shared dream. Soon it would belong to someone else, and so would her past. Over the next 2 months, a tense détente existed between Rebecca and Martin. He continued to live primarily at the Venice Beach house with Sophia, though he maintained the fiction of his marriage to Rebecca in professional settings. Rebecca focused on her work, met discreetly with her real estate agent as potential buyers toured the house while Martin was away, and finalized her plans. The divorce proceedings moved forward quietly. Martin, evidently deciding that a clean and private break was preferable to a public scandal, cooperated with the terms Rebecca had outlined. Neither of them spoke about the house again. Martin seemed to assume that Rebecca's threat to keep it was a negotiating tactic, one that would resolve itself as the divorce finalized. Then came the offer, $15 million all cash from a tech billionaire looking for a weekend retreat. $5 million above the asking price. With only one condition, a quick closing, Rebecca accepted immediately. Present day. Martin's Porsche screeched into the driveway of the Malibu house 3 hours after Rebecca's phone call. She was waiting for him in the living room, seated calmly on one of the Italian leather sofas they'd chosen together years ago. The front door slammed open. "Rebecca!" Martin's voice echoed through the house. She didn't respond, just waited as his footsteps approached. He appeared in the doorway, face flushed with anger, still wearing the tailored suit he'd put on for client meetings that morning. "What the hell have you done?" he demanded. Rebecca met his gaze steadily. "I sold the house. I told you this morning. You can't just—" Martin ran his hands through his hair in frustration. "This is our home." "No," Rebecca corrected him. "It was my home. It was my inheritance that paid for it. My name on the deed. We built a life here." He gestured wildly at the space around them. "My career is tied to this house. Every major publication has featured it with my name attached. You should have considered that before you married Sophia while still married to me." Martin paced the living room, the glass walls surrounding them on 3 sides reflecting his agitated movements. "This is vindictive and you know it." Rebecca stood, smoothing down her skirt. "Actually, it's practical. We're getting divorced. I don't need a $15 million house for just myself. And since you've chosen to build a new life with Sophia in Venice Beach, you clearly don't need it either." "Don't be naive," Martin snapped. "This house is more than a residence. It's a symbol. It's how clients see me, how the industry judges my success." "Then perhaps you should have purchased it yourself," Rebecca replied. "Or at least ensured your name was on the deed before betraying the person who did buy it for you." Martin stopped pacing, his expression shifting from anger to calculation. "We can fix this. Call the buyers, tell them there was a mistake. I'll pay any penalties." Rebecca almost laughed. "The sale is final, Martin. The papers are signed. The money has been transferred." $15 million, he said, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "Where is it?" "In my account." "Where it belongs." Martin's face darkened. "I helped make this house what it is. I deserve part of that money." "You'll get exactly what the divorce agreement stipulates," Rebecca said. "Your firm." "Your earnings. The life you built with Sophia, including the felony you committed by marrying her." "Don't threaten me," Martin warned, stepping closer. "It's not a threat. It's a reminder of the choice you made." Rebecca maintained her composure, though her heart raced. She'd never seen this side of Martin, this raw anger, the barely controlled fury. "We have 3 days to vacate the property." "I've already packed most of my things." Martin stared at her, seemingly at a loss for words. Finally, he said, "You've changed." "Yes," Rebecca agreed. "I have? I never thought you could be this cold, and I never thought you could marry another woman behind my back." She picked up her purse from the sofa. "Yet here we are." Martin's shoulders sagged suddenly, the fight draining out of him. "What am I supposed to tell my clients? The industry? Everyone thinks this is my house? That's your problem to solve." Rebecca walked toward the foyer, pausing in the doorway. "You might start by being honest for once." As she reached for the front door, Martin called after her. "Where are you going?" "We need to discuss this." Rebecca turned, regarding her soon-to-be ex-husband with detached curiosity. "There's nothing left to discuss. The house is sold. Our marriage is over. You've made your choice and I've made mine. So that's it? 12 years together and you just walk away?" "No, Martin. You walked away the moment you married Sophia. I'm just finalizing the paperwork. She opened the door, letting in the cool evening air. Rebecca, wait. There was desperation in his voice now. What about Sophia? What are you going to do? Rebecca paused, one foot outside. Nothing. Your relationship with Sophia is your business now. Though you might want to consult a criminal attorney about that Las Vegas marriage license before you try to make it official after our divorce. You're really not going to tell anyone? Martin asked, disbelief evident in his tone. What would be the point? Rebecca replied. Revenge might feel satisfying in the moment, but it wouldn't undo what's happened. I prefer to focus on my future. She stepped outside, then added, But Martin, if you ever try to claim credit for this house again, or imply that you have any ownership of it, I will set the record straight, publicly. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving Martin alone in the vast glass house that no longer belonged to either of them. 6 months later. Rebecca signed the final document and handed it back to her assistant. Is that everything? That's it, Melissa confirmed. The foundation is officially established. The Rebecca Turner Foundation for Women in Architecture will be announced at next month's gala. Perfect. Rebecca leaned back in her chair, gazing out at the view from her new office. Not the Pacific Ocean this time, but the downtown Los Angeles skyline, glittering in the afternoon sun. After selling the Malibu house, Rebecca had taken the $15 million and made strategic changes in her life. She'd stepped back from her law practice, focusing instead on consulting work and the new foundation she'd created, dedicated to supporting women pursuing careers in architecture through scholarships, mentoring, and project funding. The irony wasn't lost on her. Her intercom buzzed. Ms. Turner, your 4 o'clock is here. Send her in. The door opened to reveal a young woman, early 20s, with a portfolio case clutched nervously in her hands. Ms. Turner? I'm Zoe Washington. Thank you so much for meeting with me. Rebecca smiled, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. Please sit down, and call me Rebecca. Zoe settled into the chair, placing her portfolio on the desk. I still can't believe I was selected for the foundation's first major grant. My professors were shocked when they heard the amount. Your design submission was exceptional, Rebecca said. Innovative, sustainable, and beautifully conceived. Exactly the kind of fresh perspective the industry needs. That means so much coming from you, Zoe said earnestly. Especially after everything you've accomplished this year. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. Oh? The foundation, your new consulting firm, and that amazing speech you gave at the Women in Design conference last month. Zoe's eyes shone with admiration. You've become such an inspiration to so many of us. Rebecca felt a warmth spread through her chest, an emotion she'd almost forgotten during the cold, calculating months of her marriage's dissolution. Thank you, she said simply. Now let's talk about your project. The sustainable housing complex you've designed for East Los Angeles. Tell me more about your vision. As Zoe began enthusiastically explaining her concept, Rebecca found herself fully engaged, asking questions and offering suggestions. This, supporting other women, creating something meaningful from the ashes of her marriage, felt right in a way that nothing had in years. Their meeting ran long, and by the time Zoe left with funding secured and a mentorship arrangement established, the sun was setting over Los Angeles. Rebecca's assistant knocked lightly on the door. Will you be needing anything else today? No, thank you, Melissa. You can head home. Left alone, Rebecca walked to the window, watching the city lights begin to twinkle on as darkness fell. Her phone chimed with a news alert, an Architectural Digest article featuring Martin Turner's latest project, a controversial high-rise in Singapore. She hesitated, then opened it. The article was largely positive, praising Martin's bold new direction following his divorce and the surprising sale of his Malibu home. There was a photo of him at the project site, Sophia Chen beside him, both looking professional and composed. No mention of the Las Vegas wedding. No public scandal. As agreed, Rebecca closed the article without finishing it. Martin had faced consequences for his choices, the loss of the house that had been central to his professional image, the quiet whispers in industry circles about the sudden changes in his personal and professional life. It was enough. Her phone rang, Elaine calling. "Hey, did you see the article?" Her friend asked without preamble. "Just now," Rebecca confirmed. And nothing. "It's his life. Not mine anymore," Elaine sighed. "You're a better person than I am. I'd still be tempted to expose him." "What would that accomplish?" Rebecca asked, watching a plane's lights cross the darkening sky. "Besides, I'm too busy with the foundation to waste energy on the past. Speaking of which, have you seen the applications for the next round of grants? They've tripled since the announcement of Zoe's project." "That's wonderful," Rebecca said, genuine pleasure in her voice. "Send them over. I'll review them this weekend." After hanging up, Rebecca gathered her things and headed out. Her new condominium was walking distance from the office, a deliberate choice, part of her reconstructed life. As she walked through the vibrant downtown streets, Rebecca reflected on the journey of the past year. The betrayal, the calculated response, the final severing of ties with the man she'd once built her life around. She had lost a husband, a house, and the future she'd planned. But in their place, she'd found something unexpected. A renewed sense of purpose, the freedom to define her own legacy, and a strange sense of gratitude for the crisis that had forced her to rebuild. At a crosswalk, she paused, waiting for the light to change. Across the street, a new building was under construction, innovative in design, with flowing lines and sustainable features that caught her professional eye. The architect's name was prominently displayed on the construction barrier: Sophia Design. Rebecca studied the rendering for a moment, appreciating the creativity despite herself. Then she noticed the small print beneath, a Turner Architectural Group project. So Martin had given Sophia her own division within his company. A smart move, both personally and professionally. The light changed. Rebecca crossed the street and continued on her way without a backward glance. When she reached her building, the doorman greeted her by name. "Evening, Ms. Turner. Package came for you." In her apartment, Rebecca opened the small box that had been delivered. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. "Rebecca, this is the first profit share from the Singapore project. I know we agreed to a clean break, but this design began when we were still together, and your initial input was valuable. It seemed right that you should benefit from its success. I heard about your foundation. It's a good thing you're doing. Martin." The check was for $2 million. Rebecca looked at it for a long moment, then picked up her phone and took a photo. She opened her banking app and deposited the check remotely. Then she composed a brief email. "Martin, check received and deposited. The full amount will go to the Foundation's scholarship fund. I hope Singapore continues to be successful. Rebecca." She sent it, then walked to the window of her 32nd floor apartment. The city stretched out below her, millions of lights in the darkness, each one representing a life being lived, choices being made, futures being written and rewritten. Rebecca Turner was 43 years old. She had lost her marriage but found her purpose. Lost a house but gained a foundation that would outlast any building. She had turned betrayal into opportunity, pain into power. She hadn't just survived. She had rebuilt. And as she stood at the window of her new life, looking out at the limitless horizon, Rebecca found herself smiling, a real smile, reaching her eyes for the first time in longer than she could remember.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.